Hi, I'm Anthony from bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com, and this video will explore what to do during your first year on the guitar and especially what not to do. So if you're just starting out on guitar, of course it's important to learn your basics like open chords, but then you want to take another step in the direction of blues guitar playing if you're into that style, and you wouldn't be if you're on my channel. So we were talking about blues stuff here. So it's if you're just learned, for example, the E chord, then we can go one step above that and learn the E7 chord by just placing the pinky finger here on the B string 3rd fret. So that's an example of learning more bluesy chords with chords you probably already know. Like if you learn E chord, you just make the E7 chord from it, and you can watch those chords here also in the diagrams. So we're playing E, and then by placing the pinky finger on the B string we have the E7 chord. And that's a great chord to learn. A lot of people learn their chords from like chord books on chords. And I would encourage you to not do that, because they are just a summary of all the chords that are there. And especially if you look at all the dominant 7 chords in there, because that's the name of such an E7 chord. It's a dominant 7 chord. They have really strange voicings, really complex voicings of these chords already. So I would encourage you to just work with what you already have, like an E chord, and then put the pinky finger here on the B string 3rd fret to make this much used E7 chord. And because a lot of times in these chord books we have like this voicing of the E7 chord, which is like also based on the normal open E chord voicing, but then they just lift the 3rd finger. And while this perfectly is okay to play this chord, it isn't a really bluesy voicing. If you pay attention, it sounds better and bluesier if you play the version with the B string here 3rd fret. So the first year you're playing guitar, I would first learn the open chords, and then also learn the 7 chords in the way described, like by just going with the open chords voicings from the major and the minor chords, and then placing one of the fingers like in the C chord here on the G string 3rd fret. We can also put the pinky finger here, and then we have a C7 chord. While we won't go into all the chords that you should know, it pays to just learn the open chords, then learn the 7 chords, and also learn your scales on guitar. And before you're learning the scales, it pays to talk about the right hand, because we want to build up the alternate picking technique as well. So if you're just starting out on guitar, or you're somewhere in your first year on the guitar, just learning to pick down up on all strings is a good way to build up the technique that is needed to then play scales on the guitar. So if you're just doing this, you're muting with the left hand, and then you're playing down up. This is a great way to train yourself to then play the scales. And in the beginning, you can play while looking at this picking hand, and then you see if you are making mistakes and you can correct them. But after a while, after numerous repetitions, you don't want to constantly check this hand anymore. Then you want to also look away, and it's a great exercise to go through this and play alternate picking, so down and up on each string, without looking at this hand. So this is a great exercise. I'll just look somewhere else. All right, and once you're able to do this, then you know you have this picking under your knee. Then you can start playing the pentatonic scales here. So for a lot of people, it requires much stretch from the hands to play the pentatonic scales. That's why you can learn them a bit higher up on the neck. And also you can walk over the fretboard of the guitar with 2 fingers at first. So you can do this exercise, for example. So it's kind of a finger walk thing where I'm just fretting here the 9th fret on the low E string and then the 10th fret, and I'm playing with my pick on the 9th fret with a downstroke. Then I'm putting my middle finger on the 10th fret and then I'm playing an upstroke. And that's the way, if you do this on each string, we'll replay this exercise. So this is the ascending part. Descending, we're just going to do the opposite. You're just fretting the 10th fret and then the 9th fret. And if you can't do this, you will have a hard time playing scales, so that's why it's a good preparational exercise here that we're doing. Same thing with the index finger and the 3rd finger. Also, you continue playing with alternate picking here in the picking hand. And then also the same with the pinky finger. And most people have a hard time playing a lot with the pinky finger during their first year on guitar, which is normal because this is the weakest finger of the 4 fingers here that we use. But this doesn't mean that this finger can build strength. So the more we use it, the better it's going to go to play with this finger. So if you play here, you're with the index finger on the 9th fret and then the pinky finger on the 12th fret, this is a great exercise to go through. And then the descending part, you go from the highest to the lowest note on each string. And also pay attention to my thumb. My thumb is now under the neck of the guitar, somewhere around the 1st finger. Maybe you can play around and experiment with putting the thumb between the index finger and the middle finger, but it's at the bottom of the guitar. And you see a lot of guitarists do this, and this is great also, but in the beginning I would encourage you to play your scales with the thumb under the neck, and the reason for this is because you will have better control over all your fingers. They will line up better, and especially if you have a lot of difficulties with the stretch in your fingers, you will have more stretch in your fingers if you have the thumb under the neck than if you play with the fingers with the thumb around the neck. But of course, if you feel comfortable with the thumb around the neck, you can do so. But here on the thickest strings, you always would play with the thumb under the neck, unless you have really large hands like Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan and you're blessed with big hands. So you can play with the thumb around the neck, but I would encourage you to start out with the thumb behind the neck because it will build more stretch. And talking about stretch, once you have exercises such as these under the fingers, you can move to the pentatonic scales, and probably heard already of the scale. So it's a combination of the fingerings that we went through in these preparational technical exercises to build up your technique. So it's the index and pinky finger on the thickest, and then the 2 highest strings. So on the low E string, the B and the high E string, that is, and then the index and the 3rd finger on all the other strings. So this is a pentatonic scale. Now it's based on the C sharp note. That's the 1st note of the scale, so it's called C sharp minor scale. If we play it here, 1 fret lower on the C note, now we're playing a C minor pentatonic scale. And it's a good exercise to learn to pick through all these scales and to pay attention to the notes on the low E string, because I would encourage you during your first year on the guitar to memorize the notes at least on the 2 thickest strings. Because if you do so, you have 50% of the notes on the guitar already memorized, because the high E string is the same as the low E string, because if you know where the F and the G and the A notes are here on the low E string, you already know them here on the high E string as well. And then combine that with the second thickest string, the A string. If you know where the notes are there, you already have 3 out of the 6 strings on the guitar memorized. And you see now that if we play the pentatonic scales starting on other starting points, root notes they are called, then the name also changes. So now if we want to play like a B minor pentatonic scale, it's based out of this B note here on the 7th fret on the low E string, and then you play this pentatonic scale. So it's a B minor pentatonic scale. And if you want to get into playing with backing tracks, playing with other people, you need to learn this, because if there are backing tracks or people mention, well, we're going to play blues in B, and you need to play a B minor pentatonic scale, then you need to find this B note. So that's why learning the notes on the low E string is essential during first year on the guitar. And you can shift the pentatonic scale gradually towards the larger frets where it's more difficult to play. There's also much more tension on the strings here. So the most difficult place on the guitar to play this pentatonic scale is here at the 1st fret. And I would encourage you to build up during several weeks. Play it first at the 9th fret, then maybe a week later at the 8th fret, then you can shift down to the 7th fret, and then all the way over the course of several weeks you can go here. So that would be the F minor pentatonic scale if we play it here. And we can go even 1 fret lower, and then we need to open strings. Maybe you heard of this scale, it's the E minor pentatonic scale, but if we play it in this way, we need, instead of here the 1st fret with the index finger, we need all the open strings. So this is then the E minor pentatonic scale. So we need to prepare our fingers to play the scales. We need then to practice those scales and do a lot of repetitions with them. Of course, then to move on and make music with what you already know, and to learn licks, to learn to improvise and phrase. And these are all important topics. We will come back at them in another video. So if you like this, subscribe to the channel so you get all the newest videos live to your YouTube home feed when they are launched here on the YouTube channel. And if you like this, also check out the website at bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com. I have a master blues guitar lessons program where I take you from the very beginning of guitar playing to where you want to go to the mastery levels of blues guitar playing. That's why I give away a free roadmap on my website where I teach you how to build this roadmap and how I built also the roadmap for my students. So if you aren't already in that program, Master Blues Guitar, check it out at bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com, and the link is below this video to get the free download on the roadmap. It's essentially a download, it's a guide, but there's also 4 videos to watch. So I would encourage you to watch those videos so you can determine if this program is something for you.